Hey folks, Randy here. So sometimes you get approached by someone, and as soon as you start talking to them, you're like, I know this guy's going to be a problem. And that's a skill that you kind of hone over time when you're in business for yourself, is like, as soon as somebody approaches you, you can just be like, I know this person is going to be an issue. And generally speaking, a good rule of thumb is just move on from them. Don't engage. It's not worth the headache. There's many times I've ignored those warnings and realized later, like, man, I really wish I hadn't done that. But sometimes you know that this thing is going to crash and burn, but you'd still like to get their money. So I'm going to tell you how to do that. Step one is you need to have a good CRM that you can manage your business through. And while this may seem like an ad for, I don't know, Jobber, and it is, it's also very necessary to have a CRM that you can rely on, because it's very important for dealing with difficult people. I use Jobber right now, and so I'm able to do things like manage when I've clocked in or out of a job. I can process payments through the system by having a credit card on file. I can kind of keep track of everything and, have a semblance of an audit trail just in case there's an issue later. Jobber is really a good option if you're going to, especially if you're going to deal with difficult people. It's a good option to have so that you can cover yourself. So if you look in the link below in the description of this video, there's a link there that's a personal link for me so that folks that watch this channel can get a discount on Jobber. It's a completely free trial. It's definitely worth looking at. It's very polished, very smooth system. So check it out. But anyway, so you need to have a CRM that you can rely on. So I'll tell you the story of what happened to me recently, and we can go from there. So I have a property that I take care of. Awesome guy, really, really good customer. Never any issues paying. Easy job, whatever. So his neighbor pulls up next to me as I'm about to pull off, and he's like, hey, how much to cut my grass? Now, whenever somebody's that polite, it doesn't even say hello. So I'm like, well, where's your yard? And he points to it. And, in my area, if you're on one street, everybody's yard's basically the same size. So I'm like, okay, are you looking for weekly or every 2 weeks? 2 weeks. All right, it'll be $60. $60? And what does that cover? Like, mowing, trimming, blowing it all off. Are you going to trim the bushes? No. Are you going to pull the weeds? No. It's too much. Okay, you can get somebody else. At this point, like, this guy's not for me. And he's like, well, he won't leave. I'm like, I tell you what, give me your information. I'll send you a quote. If you want to go with us, great. If not, great. Whatever. And so he gives me his information. I send him the quote, and I don't think about it anymore. Because in my mind, I'm like, I know as soon as I'm interacting with this guy, I'm not going to be working for him for long, if I work for him at all. But, I'm there on that street every week anyway. If I can make a couple extra bucks off this guy, let's do it. So I don't hear anything from him. And then after a couple of weeks, he says yes. Like, he accepts the quote. Great. So, but he doesn't put his card on file, which is something I require all my customers to do. And so he, does his... So I show up to cut his neighbor's property, and he comes out and he's like, hey, are you going to cut my grass? I'm like, you haven't put your card on file. Like, that's part of the terms of our agreement, is you put your card on file. Put it on file, and sure. He's like, okay. So he doesn't, but then like a couple days later, he does. So I'm like, all right, I'll put him on the schedule. So I mow his yard, and he comes out to talk to me. And he's like, are you going to trim the bushes? I told you no. Okay. are you going to trim all the weeds in that garden bed? The garden bed is bigger than his yard. And it is overgrown. It's not weeds, it's trees. And so I tell him, I'm like, well, I can trim that, but it's extremely overgrown. So, you're going to have to pay, I don't know what it was, an extra $30 to trim, to get that all knocked down. And then, yeah, I'll just maintain it after that, because I have time frames kind of in my mind when I'm pricing jobs, and he had extra time on his property, so it wasn't going to be a big deal. And he's like, oh, whew. And he's like, so you won't trim that. You won't trim the bushes, but you're charging me $60. I'm like, yes, sir. And he's like, well, how much to trim the bushes? And I told him it was like $200. And he's like, for the year? I was like, no, each time. Oh! But, I've already got his money, so he can complain as much as he wants. And so then I know he's got such an attitude that it's not like, this isn't going to last long. I know it's not. I shouldn't have taken him, but I wanted a couple extra bucks. So come back again 2 weeks. He pulls up he's always leaving just as I'm like getting there. And he says, hey, I want a quote for like digging up this bush, doing this, blah, 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 and just go ahead and do it. And I'm like, no. I said, I'll give you a quote, and then if you want us to go forward, we'll go forward once you've accepted that quote. And he's like, fine, whatever. So he goes, I take care of his neighbor's yard, and with people like this, I always charge the card first. Go charge the card, declined. And so I don't mow it. Send him an email, hey, didn't mow it because X, Y, and Z. And I don't hear from him. Actually, I never hear from him at all. I just periodically, every time I go there, charge the card, nothing, So finally, like after like a month, I charge the card and it goes through. So I mow it, and then it's another 6 weeks of his card getting declined. And so I emailed him, and just was like, hey, your card keeps getting declined. If you wanted me to keep mowing your yard, like, please let me know, or, like what's going on here. And when I showed up at his property yesterday, his grass was cut. Now, this guy was looking for every possible way to scam me, which is weird because he was doing this under his business, which that's kind of bizarre to try and scam people using your business. But he wasn't able to because I was able to charge his card ahead of time, get the money ahead of time. And we were never dealing with anything more than one service at a time. So it's not like he could build up a bunch of money that he owed me and then not pay it. So most of the time when somebody comes at you like that, just move on. Don't mess with them. They're not worth your time. They're not worth the headache. But in this situation, I figured I would take what ended up only being an extra $120. But hey, $120 to me. And, didn't really take up that much of my time. And I'm no worse for wear, I was glad to have the $120, and I'm also glad that I don't have to deal with him anymore. So I hope this was helpful to you. Like I said, if you're going to engage, honestly, you should do this anyway, but if you're going to engage with people like that, just make sure you got a solid CRM that you can track everything in, and you'll be good to go. So this is Randy. I hope this was helpful to you. Have a good one.